Hello and welcome to day 5 of the 7-day Athlete AI Challenge, where I take you from not knowing how to code to full-blown athlete dev with your own customized athlete OS or your athlete operating system. Today is all about fueling and pace planning. More races are lost to bad fueling and bad pacing than bad fitness, and the bonk problem is real. I've DNF'd races, I've blown up in marathons because of that exact problem. It's not because I wasn't fit enough, it's because I didn't properly plan my fueling and my pacing. In this video, we're going to have Claude actually come up with a proper fueling and pace plan for your unique race. We're going to have it understand real fueling science backed by actionable cited sources so that there's no weird, fuzzy Claude hallucination math happening. We're going to have it interview us to fine-tune those sciences on our actual guts and our bodies, how we sweat and any past blow-ups, and then finally we're going to create a real actionable plan, carbs, fueling, sodium, all of it fully in your athlete operating system. So without further ado, let's get started. In order to create an actionable, repeatable process for fueling and pacing, you guessed it, we're going to create a Claude Code skill. So I've created a prompt to allow us to do that. Go ahead and grab that in the reference files and paste it directly in the Claude Code chat. What this is going to do is it's going to create an actionable skill that we can reference at any time if we want to redial in our fueling and our pacing. My race that I'm training for is to run the Rut Trifecta in September, and so we're going to create together what that looks like for my race, which is a big mountain ultra at elevation with unpredictable weather. So there's a lot for Claude to think through. And like the previous days, everything that we're going to be doing is going to force Claude to ground itself in actual sources and citations. So we have our first Claude questions. How much do I weigh? I'm about 180 pounds. Hopefully by race day, I'll be lighter, but right now I'm 180 pounds. My gut tolerance. Over the last couple of years, I've been able to develop a really strong gut. However, because I haven't been training ultras that much this year, I don't really have a great gut track. So I'd like to increase slowly, but really work on hitting maximum well-trained carbs per hour. Like for Leadville, I was hitting 100 to 120 grams of carbs per hour in the beginning, and I eventually slowed down. I loosened up on the carbs. Sweat profile. I'm an average sweater. I don't have anything crazy. And then the heat tolerance. I've actually been training outside midday to prepare for this exact race. And so I'm actually pretty well heat trained. And plus, it helped that my previous house had a sauna. You know, one of the things that we've done really well with our Claude.md file is we've told it to ground itself in real world context. So before it starts doing things and coding and creating, it's actually going to ask us questions, and that's why you see those prompts coming through. I don't know my actual sweat rate, and so Claude's just going to have to come up with a general plan, and then we're going to have to iterate from there. All right, perfect. It just started to come back with some information, and it is well cited. That's for damn sure. Take a look at this. I mean, this is really powerful stuff. And this just basically wrote a dissertation in fueling and pacing and sweat strategy. So this is super powerful. We've got to synthesize this down. Basically what Claude is doing is it's saying, hey, I just went out and read all of this. I don't need you to understand it. What I need you to do is act on it. And so the skill that we're making is going to use all of this beautiful, juicy research that Claude just went out and got and create that skill for us to be able to use. Now, I encourage you, if you're a data nerd like me, like tonight before I go to bed, I'm going to read this because I think this is super interesting. But you don't have to. You just have to rely on the fact that you believe Claude understands what it's doing, created that skill that you can use moving forward. Altitude, long distance, duration adjustments, fluid and sodium by sweat rate and heat, carbohydrate oxidation limits, and glucose and fructose impact. I mean, that's really good stuff. And if you're a data nerd like me, you're going to eat this up. Pacing physiology. And now you can see here, it just created the skill that we can go and reference directly in our Claude skills folder. Formulas to bake in. It's actually creating specific formulas so that every time it runs the skill, it follows this exact pattern, which is the beauty of it because it's no longer going to guess or hallucinate on some crazy metric or crazy calculation. we've baked it directly into the skill that we will reference every single time. Sodium by hour, sweat sodium, altitude multipliers, grading and pacing calculations, and then all the sources and citations around it. And then confidence flags. It's going to tell you what it feels really strongly about. And then it's probably going to tell you, hey, there's probably a couple things in here that I'm not necessarily 100% positive on, or because we're doing this virtually, I can't get the best code on yourself. So we're going to have to iterate a little bit as we go. Skill build. So now it's going to run that for my actual race based on my actual athlete profile. While it's doing that, let's take a look and review the actual skill. So now we've got the name, we've got the description, fueling and pace. You are my race day fueling and pacing coach. Build a plan from physiology and my inputs. So again, everything we do is grounded on my actual athlete profile. Yours would and should be very different from mine because everybody is created different with different goals and objectives. Read the race plus me. Ground yourself in actionable, usable information. Ask what I know. Don't re-ask things that we've already created, right? I don't need to repeat myself. I shouldn't have to repeat myself. There's a lot of good context in here, and Claude's identifying that. And then estimate the unknowns. Label every estimate. Never stall. Don't get to a point where you can't calculate something because you don't have. Identify that you're missing that specific metric. Estimate it based on the best possible outcome, and then let me know that you've made that estimation so that me as the human can decide, is that adequate or not? Step 4, baked in formulas. And this is where it gets really strong because every single time the skill runs, you can guarantee that it's going to follow the exact formulas that you've built in here. So we've got carbs per hour, we've got fluid per hour, sodium per hour, and all of these are cited, scientific publications, not some random Joe Schmo who thinks that they understand. This is well documented science literature about each one of these topics. Altitude, grade and pacing, and then the next part is build the actual plan. So what do we need to do based on our race that we've got planned and my athlete profile to come up with it? Show the work, flag the limits, and recompute on correction. If we get through and I identify something in the race plan and the fueling plan that I don't agree with, it's going to rerun the entire thing with the new outcome and then save it down. As you can see, it's just populated on the side next to races where we can look at exactly what the skill created. What is that output and how can we use it for our race? So always beginning with the introduction, but then quickly diving into what were the inputs that the skill used. My body weight, my gut carb tolerance levels, my race carb targets, my sweat profile, my sweat rate, my sweat sodium levels, heat tolerance, what products I've used, my altitude reality, my pace effort by hour, and then carbs stay high, right? Like, can I hit that as I go forward? Day 1. So mine is a multi-day race. Beginning on day 1, then day 2, and day 3. Each day, I'm going to need to make sure that I'm fueling properly both during the race and after. So I'm very curious to see, did it come up with just a race fueling plan, or did it come up with a multi-day fueling plan to make sure that the second day and the third day, I'm not bonking? And there you go. Recovery is the point. Within 30 minutes, start having carbs and protein so that you can refuel those glycogen levels and that you can stop the muscles from breaking down, and then keep eating and drinking all afternoon. This sets up Saturday. Exactly what I expected is what it gave me. And then day 2. This is where it's going to start building off of that and creating, okay, day 2, it's a little bit more of a lift. So we're going to start hitting some higher level carbs per hour. We're going to want to make sure our fluid levels are strong. It's a cold start, but it does get warmer midday. Sodium levels, pacing plan. And then the one crucial thing that it understands is this is a multi-day race. And so recovery, again, is very big. Big carbs, protein, fluid, sodium refill, elevate the legs, big rest, sleep Saturday night. Recovery is Sunday's fuel. Exactly what I want to hear. Day 3, this is the final boss. This is where all my training over the next couple months are going to be paid off. So this is where you can start to see it get super detailed, where you want to have a colder start so the fluid intake is a little bit less. However, as it gets hotter, you're going to want to bump those liters per hour up to 1, and sometimes even more. Where am I going to put the drop bags, right? We're going to put the drop bags at specific aid stations. What are my sodium levels going to be? Making sure that I'm hitting 1,000 milligrams per liter of water that I'm ingesting. And so that's roughly 1,000 milligrams an hour. That's one of those elements an hour. So make sure that I'm accounting for both the altitude and the heat. And then it's flagging here. This was an estimate. So it's identifying the fact that sodium intake is going to be really important during this race, and it doesn't have an actual sweat rate for me. It's just estimated. So this is something that we probably can refine as we move forward and as we define this race a little bit further. Pacing and the cutoff, right? So I've told Claude that one of my biggest worries was I want to make sure that I'm hitting these cutoffs with a lot of cushion, that I'm not chasing cutoffs on this final day. And so it's coming up with a plan on how I'm going to do that aid station by aid station to make sure that I finish very comfortably. I mean, 11-hour race would be great. Maybe I'll try to beat that, right? So like this is the planning that you can start to do and understand based on where I think my fitness level's at, where can I actually succeed? Yeah, and then this is the part that's really cool, right? Pre-race and the between day. Those big gaps in between day 1 and 2 and then 2 and 3 is really important. Breakfast, hitting 120 to 160 grams of carbs, 2 to 3 hour pre-start, right? Within 30 minutes of each finish, topping up those carbs and glycogen levels with high protein. And then the big carb loads, making sure that we're hitting 650 to 120 grams per day 2 days before this race. I mean, this is the stuff that you just can't get doing it on your own. And then it's identifying, hey, I've made these assumptions. These are the things that I think we should go back through and iterate on. So now as I plan my race out, I can go back and I can iterate. There's probably a couple of things in here that I would want to have Claude double down on, refine, edit, but you get the idea. What this has done is now every race moving forward, hey Claude, I'm going to be racing the Philadelphia Marathon in November, create a fueling and pacing plan for that specific race if I'm trying to go sub 3. And it will create a very different plan than the one we've made for the Rut, but it'll be geared towards my body and my race goals. And that concludes day 5 of the 7-day Athlete AI Challenge. We just covered a ton on fueling and pacing, on how you can use Claude to come up with a really refined fueling and pacing strategy using your new Claude Code skill. So I hope you've enjoyed this lesson, and if you have, please like and subscribe down below. And I look forward to seeing you on day 6, where we talk about putting recovery on autopilot and refining your first automation. See you then.